Hi Facebook friends, this is Chelsea and I am down here at the Buffalo County Fairgrounds at Trius Federal Credit Union's annual meeting and 50th anniversary celebration. I'm here with Charlie Pickens, one of our charter members and treasurer of the credit union. Charlie, you've been here since the beginning, so why don't you tell us a little bit about how it all started?
Well, it all started in the about this time in 1967 when a group of faculty and staff members of Kearney State College decided that a credit union was what they needed and wanted. And so we were able to get a charter in April of 67. And then in January of 68, they asked if I would be treasurer. The original gentleman decided he didn't want to do it. And I said, yeah, that'd be interesting. And so here I am now, almost 50 years later, still doing it. The one big thing, though, was, of course, back in 68, that meant I had the whole office in my office in the math department at Kearney State.
Yeah.
And so when they handed me all the stuff in January, we had 55 members and $3,500 in assets.
Wow.
So you can see it's been quite a ride.
Right.
And so I ran it about 2 years, and about the second year of the auditor from the Federal Credit Union Administration showed up, and he said, Charlie, where are your adding machine tapes? And I said, adding machine tapes? He said, yeah, you're supposed to add up all of the loan balances to make sure they check with your general ledger and add up all the savings accounts to see if they check. And of course, by that time, we'd grown to several hundred members. And I said, I can't run an adding machine like that. So I asked the board, could I hire Artis Bracklin, who taught accounting part-time, and I knew she could run an adding machine without looking at it. And so we hired Artis, and so she did that. And then about 1970, when they took over the West Campus and the faculty and staff sort of expanded, it got to a point where it was more than I was going to be able to do, and we needed attention 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. So we hired Ann Reno to be the manager, president now, and then Artis worked part-time. Doris Baker, who was another faculty wife, worked part-time, and then another lady. So they were in the old ad building that's no longer there. And then we decided in 81 we built a new facility across the street, still there. It's where Baristas is now.
Oh, okay.
That was what we moved across. Well, it was rather interesting and exciting to make a move into that, because we had been in a little house for a number of years right there in that same lot. But the two businessmen wanted to put in that strip mall, and they asked if we'd like to be in that strip mall. And we said, yeah, just put us at the south end so we could have a drive-through. So we built it and moved in. And of course, what happened in 1980, 81, interest rates went shooting up, and you could get 13 to 15% on your money. Well, that was fine, except the problem was they'd never changed the federal credit union laws. We couldn't charge more than 12%. Well, it's a little tricky to run a financial institution where you can only charge 12%, but the members would like to get 13, 15% on their money. And of course, we were in this brand new building. Well, we survived that. And then we decided, our field of membership needed to be bigger than just the campus. And because it didn't include the students at that point. And so we said, who would be a good fit for us? Well, it turned out that we lobbied the Federal Credit Union, actually NCUA is what it's called. We lobbied them to let us have the staff, the employees of Good Sam Hospital. And we sold that, and so they became our first select employee group. SIGs is what we call them. And ironically, now, here we are this much later, and evolving, we ended up having 14 SEG groups before we finally went to a community charter.
Okay.
And the other thing that started happening was we found the credit union that was at the city, they needed either you do something, so they merged with us. And then later the public schools merged with us, and then an ag credit union out of Dawson County merged with us. And by the time Eaton employees merged with us here a couple of years ago, they were the 5th credit union to merge with us. And so that was how we sort of evolved that process. And as we went along, probably 10 years ago now, we retained Scott Howitt to work with us. He had a marketing consulting firm. He's Bill Howitt's son out of Phoenix. And he worked with us with planning sessions and with the staff and with the board. And it really gave us a focus as to how we wanted to progress. And of course, ironically, somebody asked me once, what was the most significant thing in your whole 50-year history? And I'd say probably the most significant thing was when we saw the little building go up for sale on 2nd Avenue. And another gentleman who was on the board at that time, he and I said, we've got to convince the board, we've got to buy that.
Yes.
And so we bought it, and we remodeled it. It had been a dental office, and we put in the drive-through, and it was finally got it open. And probably within 2 months after we opened it, we had more traffic in that building than we had in our building over on 13th Avenue.
Really?
And so we knew we were on to something.
Yes.
And then shortly after that, they came out with the census and such, said the center of all the population in Kearney was at 29th and 2nd Avenue. And there we sat.
There you were.
So we knew we were in the right spot.
Yes.
And after we were there open about 2 months, a gentleman who owned the house to the east of us approached Dee in credit union and said, I'm ready to retire and I'm leaving town. Would you like to buy my house? And we said, yeah, we know that we need more space. So we bought that house. And then the next thing you knew, the people to the south of us on the other side of the alley, that was rental property. Fortunately, none of the houses were super expensive. The land was expensive.
Yeah.
The houses.
Yep.
And so we started buying, and of course the whole world can see now that we are own the whole block. And but it was interesting when we first built the building. It got a lot of attention in town because with the high roof that we have and the colored brick we had, everybody said, are you sure that's not a church that's being built? And I laughed because I grew up in Oklahoma, and the Disciples of Christ are big down there, and a lot of their churches look just like that. The light brick with the high pitch roof. And I said, no, it's the credit union. And so, but it was interesting when Eaton merged with us. They had 2 requests. One was, could they have 3 members on the board? We have a 9-member board. And the other is, could you change your name? And I said, well, it's ironic that you bring up changing your name, because we've been wanting to change our name anyway, because we wanted to look at expanding to other towns and counties besides Buffalo County and Kearney. And so that wasn't a problem. So the merger with Eaton has gone extremely well. The 3 people from their board have been very active and very involved, and I think their employees not only their employees but also their members have merged very well with us, and so it's been interesting. And of course now, after all this time, we're up to over 50 employees and over 68 million in assets. So it's a phenomenal,
incredible
story.
Yeah.
And I thought it was interesting. I didn't realize till I was reading stuff about getting ready for tonight that when Vicki and as marketing, and they came up with the new name and then how to promote it and the new logos and all that, the new tagline. Somehow or another, we got entered in a national contest, and we won it.
Yeah.
And so that was interesting. But we have to convince people that it's Trius rather than Trius.
Trius, yes.
But it is interesting. I've had to correct a few people, and they laugh. I said, "Well, it's sort of tricky. We didn't use a Y." But it is phenomenal. We were at 38 million, and they were at 13 million. So when we did this last merger with them, we suddenly were over 50 million. And so we changed state. They have credit unions categorized below 50 million and above 50. Well, we was number one in nearly every category when we were below 50. As soon as we went above 50, we were still number one in all the categories. Everybody, and I know Dee travels to a lot of national meetings and state meetings and such, and she's always being asked, "What's going on in Kearney? How can you do it?" And we laugh and say, "Well, I guess it helps to be the only credit union and can have 14 banks
That's
who
true.
keep stepping on themselves."
That's true.
So it's been fun. So it's going to be a great night.
It is. Hey, Charlie, can you talk about us? What 5 counties we serve in our community charter?
In community charter, besides Buffalo County, it's Hall County to the east, Dawson County to the west, and then Phelps County and Kearney County to the south.
Awesome.
And anybody who lives, works, or worships, interesting way it's worded, in any of those 5 counties are able to join. And so, it's interesting. When we did merge with Eden, they had a little office in a strip mall over in Lexington, and we picked up the little yellow house, and Williams Brothers moved it to Lexington, and we rebuilt the drive-through and big parking lot and such, and so we have 5 employees working over in Lexington. They're all 5 bilingual, and so I laughed about the last time we were talking about Lexington. Said, "Yeah, it's interesting. We've got 5 or 4 drive-throughs now, and everybody can hardly wait to have them all open and such. Our members here really like to use the drive-through." She said, "Over in Lexington, even though we have 2 drive-throughs and an ATM, our members over there love to come in and visit." So it's sort of different. Some people, and I was kidding the ladies in the lobby the other day. I said, "Boy, if they get the drive-through, you guys are going to be lonesome here," because they were really busy while the drive-through was fouled up. So, but it's been a great 50 years.
Awesome. Well, like I said before, I'm here with Charlie Pickens, one of our longtime board members. Charlie, any closing remarks you'd like to make for the evening?
Well, as the old saying goes, if anybody's watching this that's not a member, as our title says, try us.
Try us, that's right.
And I think that is one thing. Our strong point is service. And people really appreciate coming in and visiting with whoever's waiting on them, and they know their name. And so it makes a big difference.
Good at customer service. All right, well, thanks for tuning in with us, Facebook friends. Have a good night.
Okay. Thank you.